You're listening to Jonesy's Jukebox on KLOS. That was the Black Keys, Gotta Get Away, from the album Turn Blue. And before that, we had the Edgar Winter Group, Frankenstein. And we're hearing my guest, Steve Earle. How are you?
I'm good. I'm really good. I'm out. I'm not doing this thing. Buy my record. Buy my record. I'm going to a lot of places, radio stations, record stores, and just been still doing that. You know, after all these years of doing this.
I guess you still have to do it, right?
Yeah, you probably have to do it more. You know, it's one of those things that like, there's just the way that people hear music is so fragmented into all these little things on the internet. Like the other day in New York, I did, which is where I live, I did like 3 different, 3, 4, 5 song internet performances in one day. That's like work, It's one of those. We used to go to radio stations, and in the '90s, I think with AAA radio, that the whole idea of artists playing live on the air started coming about again. People started asking you to do that, and that happens more and more. There's so much stuff online, and it's just harder for people to find records. And I kind of support the mom and pop record stores. Vinyl's kind of a big deal for us. Vinyl's, for us, we sell a lot of it, and it's the one thing that you can't download vinyl. So
yeah.
So I go around to the record stores that still have. I was at Amoeba yesterday afternoon.
Did you perform in there?
I did, absolutely did.
By yourself?
That was the only thing on this run that wasn't by myself, because my guitar player and my fiddle player actually live here, so they came down and played. So we had a trio up there yesterday. But all the rest of them, I was in Seattle the day before that. Day before that in Portland at Music Millennium, and those are all solo performances. But that's how I started out. So I do solo tours. I just did 21 shows solo.
Yeah.
You can do it. It's a good skill set to have.
Yeah.
To just be able to go out there by yourself and do it.
Well, you have does the record company pay for you to go all these places?
Yeah, in this particular case, so far I have not had to pay for my own record yet. So it's one of the. I'm hoping to die before that happens. That's my plan at this point.
The label is
it's New West.
New West. Is that from Texas?
No, they're here. They were here in L.A. originally. They're actually in Nashville, Tennessee now. A friend of mine, Cameron Strain, kind of founded the label. With with the Fontaines with their money behind it, and it's kind of, he left several years ago, went to Warner. I followed him to Warner, then they fired him and they dropped me the next day, so I'm back on New West. Yeah, it's one of those. Yeah, it's a label that specializes in this kind of stuff that I do. They've got on there, John Hyatt. They put out records on John Hyatt. My son Justin Towns Earle is also on New West. He's got a record coming in May, and it's by and large, reach music of one sort or another.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you live in Manhattan?
Yeah, for the last 14 years. I was in Tennessee for 33 years, and it was just time to go. I don't know why. I live on Bleecker Street between McDougal and Sullivan. I live kind of where my job was invented.
Do you remember where Bleecker Bob's?
Oh, Bleecker Bob's, oh yeah.
Did he pass away?
Yeah, the records. I think so. The record store is long gone. There's only a couple of record shops down there anymore. Used record shops like that. Bleecker Street's gone. God, what is left now? There's hardly anything left in the way of record shops.
Yeah. I don't think they have an Amoeba in Manhattan.
No. Amoeba are pretty. They're hard to beat. The one in the Haight in San Francisco is great. I've done a lot of in stores there, and plus they give me cool stuff when I play there. You get at least a certificate to go grab some vinyl, but they've given me stuff like, I have a Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band lamp that sits next to my bed that I got from Amoeba when I did an in store there, and I have, what else? An R. Crumb, a signed.
Oh.
R. Crumb print, the Louis Armstrong print that I got years ago for playing.
I got some of his figurines.
Oh, really? Wow.
I love it. I love his stuff.
It's amazing stuff.
We have the same taste in women as well.
Oh yeah.
Big calves, thighs.
Yeah. Well, I just like girls. Oh man. But at any rate, it's just doing this thing. Making records and doing I stumbled into a sort of an acting career because that was David Simon's idea, so I do that when I can. And
what have you done? Sorry,
I was in The Wire and I was in Treme, but both of those TV shows of David Simon's because he's a big music fan. And then I've done some features that nobody saw since. It's sort of I never did it because I turned down a lot of acting roles when I was a lot younger and a lot better looking, but I hated it when actors made records, so I just sort of stayed away from it for a long time.
It's a different world now, though.
It's totally different. You just gotta. I've got a radio show on satellite radio that kind of a specialty show, an hour kind of music history.
What channel is it? A country channel?
It's on Outlaw Country.
Outlaw Country, yeah,
which is kind of the alt country channel on Sirius Satellite Radio.
Because that was your kind of thing back in the 90s, right? Was you not accepted by Nashville because you didn't wear a cowboy hat and all the rest of it?
Well, my first record came out, and the major label record came out. I had a rockabilly band in the early 80s. Everybody did. And that kind of got me my first record deal. But then I'd been around Nashville for a long time. And, I'd come there as a songwriter, had good teachers. I knew Townes Van Zandt before I got there, and I met Guy Clark when I got there. But it took me a while to get a record deal. And I made a record called Guitar Town, which was a #1 country album. But immediately, the head of the label said, okay, well, we're going to send you some songs because you're going to be on the road and you're not going to have to write any songs. And I said, I've already written the second record. And, they just didn't have the control over it that they wanted to. And that's the way Nashville, was. It was an anti-singer-songwriter town for a long time.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Didn't realize that.
Even Hank Williams, I think, kind of.
He wrote all his stuff, right?
For the most part, Lovesick Blues wasn't his. That was an old standard that he picked up and made his own. But he was a great songwriter.
Yeah, and the movie Nashville. Do you think that's a accurate?
It is in some ways. It's funny. I have a weird connection to that movie. I hitchhiked to town in '74, and I kind of knew my mother was born there, so I'd come there a couple of times as a kid. So I knew I just stayed in this all-night restaurant downtown till it got light. And then I walked out to Centennial Park, and it turned out they were filming that last scene where the shooting takes place, and that in front of that replica of the Parthenon. And they were advertising in the paper that they had dime hot dogs and nickel Cokes, and they're trying to get a crowd down there.
Yeah.
And I had $6 left, so I thought, well, that's where I'm going tomorrow. So I went down there and I bought as many hot dogs and Cokes as I could, and then until I ran out of money. And then, so I'm somewhere in that crowd scene in there somewhere. You can't really see me, but
Your first acting role.
I was definitely there, no doubt about it. And then ran out of money. I asked somebody where I could go, like sit in, like play and pass the hat or something. They pointed me to a place called Bishop's Pub. I walked in, a guy named Richard Dobson, who I knew from Texas, was behind the bar. And that's where I met Guy Clark, was in Bishop's Pub a few weeks later.
And this is the man. This album is
Guy Clark, yeah.
Yeah.
Guy was kind of maybe the greatest story songwriter that ever lived. He got songs recorded by other people, but he was writing for himself. And there was this sort of moment when I got there where there was this sort of salon, this group of songwriters who were all post-Bob Dylan songwriters that had come out of coffee houses by and large, but came from, the Southwest and the South and had background in country music too. And we were just there taking money on false pretenses from publishing companies. And some of us got songs recorded, some of us didn't. I had a few, but no big hits. And what we all wanted was record deals and to make records of our own. And Guy, one of the first things he told me was songs aren't finished until you play them for people. So that's why we were writing them to sing them ourselves when it got right down to it.
I've been there a couple of times, Nashville.
Yeah.
Stayed at Roy Orbison's house.
Really?
You ever go there?
No, I after Roy passed away, Barbara was around Nashville a lot, and I met her then. That was around the time I kind of hit that rough spot, and when I got out of jail and kind of started over again, Barbara was around a whole bunch, and she came up to me one time and she said, "I have the greatest idea. You should sing In Dreams." And I said, "Barbara, in dreams I could ever sing that song." So I can't imagine of anything more frightening than tried to tackle that song. But
it's hard to reach his notes, man.
Oh man, I don't know how he did it. I just don't. It's one of the greatest singers that ever lived. That room where all that stuff was recorded. I walked in and out there a lot of times, and those studios, a lot of them are gone now. The recording studios are disappearing one by one. You can make a record on your phone now, so and I like recording studios. I like real recording studios with a recording studio vibe rather than a spa or recording in your house. I kind of like real studios.
I do too. Have you, the idea in someone's bedroom just don't give me the vibe. Give me vibe.
Stuff.
Have you ever been into the Muscle shows? I'm sure you have.
I've been there. I never recorded there, but I went. You know, and you know, I know a lot of people that kind of came up there, and you know, like Patterson Hood and those guys. You know, the drive-by truckers. They all kind of grew up there, and my son Justin came up with those guys, and you know, I there's no place to play in that part of Alabama, so you know I haven't been there that much, but I know a lot of players that came out of that because eventually they would move to Nashville because that's where the majority of the work was. So I've met nearly every one of the guys that played on those records.
Yeah. Do you think that like these studios, Electric Ladyland, Muscle Shoals, Stax, when people go in and they say, "Oh man, I can feel the vibes," or they just saying that because they know that it's. Or do you really think there are like spirits in there?
I made a blues record called Terraplane about, you know, I mean, I come from Texas, and so I kind of come up on it, and it was just time for me. I felt like I needed to do it, and that's kind of the way I make records. I need kind of a theme to hang on to, you know, why I'm making an album. And we went in and we played this song called King of the Blues. It was on the record. It was for a radio station. It was for WFUV, and it was invited guests. And everybody we did the event in Electric Lady, and the band set up in one end of the main room, and it was, you know, we had them jammed. It's 35 or 40 people, which is a lot of people. It's not that big a studio. And I did, I'd made the record there already, and loved the studio. It's a few blocks from my apartment. But we played this song, King of the Blues, and the changes are based on Hey Joe. And at the end of it, I just kicked off Hey Joe, and I don't know what possessed me literally to do it, but I did, and we smoked it, and it stayed in our set for the last several years ever since we did that. That felt fairly haunted in a really good sort of way, even though he never made a record there. They made a few demos and stuff that the studio was just, you know, they were just getting it together when he left for England and he passed away. And Electric Ladyland was made, you know, at the record plant, and you know, not at Electric Lady Studios. He never actually recorded a record. Yeah. It was a club that he hung out in. And then, of course, he starts making money, and his first idea was, I'm going to buy the club where I hang out. You know, which is, you know, that's not a good business plan, but he didn't, you know, he was 24.
He wasn't known for his business plans.
Didn't realize that at the time. And his manager said, hey, tell you what, if we're going to own this building, let's do something constructive with it, put a recording studio. And he said, okay. And him and Eddie Kramer started putting the studio together.
We're here with Steve Earle, and we're going to play Out in the Parking Lot.
No, are you going to play off the record?
Yeah.
Cool. Oh man,
See?
Yeah, there you go. You're more prepared than I am. Well, this is.
I'm not really prepared.
It's one of Guy's later songs that he wrote, and it was we needed one rocker, and this was the one.
Steve Earle, Jonesy's Jukebox, KLOS. You're listening to Jonesy's Jukebox on KLOS. That was Jimi Hendrix. Have you ever been to Electric Ladyland?
Yeah. I have, actually. But,
we're here with Steve Earle, and the track before that was from the album Guy. Out in the Parking Lot was the track. So they're all covers.
Yeah, it's all songs written by Guy Clark, who he was, I don't know, one of the best songwriters I ever saw. And he was also a good teacher. I mean, I learned a lot from Townes Van Zandt, but Townes was more like give you a book and tell you to go read it and tell you to put the cap back on the bottle, or somebody would come over along and kick it over, which was useful information in my life at the time. But Guy showed me how he laid a song out on the page, and you know, saw me writing with a pen one day. He said, "What are you writing with a pen for?" "Write with a pencil with a big eraser." You know, and it's the idea that writing is, when you're serious about lyrics, is it's as much about editing as it is anything else. You know, if you keep writing and keep rewriting, and until you think you got it the best that you can do it. And he worked really hard at his stuff, you know, so he left a pretty big body of work. And you know, he lived here in L.A. for a minute. He was from Texas, came out. He made guitars. He built really, really beautiful guitars. And he and a guy named Minor Wilson moved to San Francisco, opened a guitar shop, and that failed. Minor went back to Texas. Guy came down here and went to work at the Dobro factory down in Orange County, you know, fitting necks on Dobros. And he just did that for a while and started playing in a string band around town. He and Tom Waits knew each other from back then. And he eventually got a publishing deal with Sunbury Dunbar, which was RCA's publishing company. And they asked him where he wanted to live, and he was never all that happy in L.A. anyway. So he moved, which is actually a song cue, we can get this Guy Clark song done because that's what it's about. And it's one of the songs that some people know because Jerry Jeff Walker recorded it. And it's the idea of, I think it probably was the first song he wrote in Nashville after he landed there. After he got the deal, they asked where he wanted to live, and he said, not here. And he went to Tennessee. Pack up all your dishes, made a note of all good wishes, say goodbye to the landlord for me. Some bitches always bored me, throw out them old LA papers, a molded box of vanilla wafers, adios to all this concrete. Gonna give me some dirt road backstreet. If I can just get off of this LA freeway without getting killed or caught, I'll be down the road in a cloud of smoke to some land I ain't bought in this. Here's to you, skinny Dennis. Only one I think I will miss. I can hear a bassman singing, sweet and low like a gift you're bringing. Play it for me one more time now. Gotta give it all we can now. I believe every word you're saying. Just you keep on playing. If I can just get off of this LA freeway without getting killed or caught, I'll be down the road in a cloud of smoke to some land I ain't bought, and you put the pink card in the mailbox. Leave the key in the old front door lock. They will find it likely as not. Sort of something we have forgot. Oh, Susanna, don't you cry, babe. Love's a gift that's surely handmade. We got something to believe in. Don't you think it's time we're leaving? If I can just get off of this LA freeway without getting killed or caught, I'll be down the road in a cloud of smoke to some land I ain't bought. If I just get off of this LA freeway without getting killed or caught. Pack up all your dishes, made a note of all good wishes, say goodbye to the landlord phone bill. Some bitches always bored me.
That's great.
He was a great songwriter.
Yeah. There's a lot of verses there.
That's was. Is it how many? It's like just 3 or 4. It's not. There were story songs. They had a beginning and a middle and end. It's not a long song.
Yeah.
He learned how to do it. You know, at first he wrote a lot. That's one reason I gravitated towards him. I tended to write these long story songs, and Guy and I were drunk for a week after the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald went to #1, that Gordon Lightfoot song, because there was this long ballad about a shipwreck on the radio. We thought there's some hope, but we both learned to, you know, tell stories and do it in less time. You know, which made it. You know, it's always better for making records. I mean, you know, the less of people's time you waste trying to get your point across, probably the better.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That was great.
Thanks.
The voice sounds good.
Yeah, it's weird. I think I probably sing better than I did when I was younger. Emphysema probably part of it, but you know, it's one of those things. My voice has changed a lot, but I'm okay with the way I sing now. I have trouble listening to the records from the '80s. That's the only thing that bothers me about them. The tracks don't bother me. Doesn't bother me that the drums are too loud. It was the '80s, but you know, my voice bugs me listening to it then, and I'm okay with listening to my voice.
That's funny.
Now.
I did an album in the '80s, and my voice. I don't like my voice at all.
Yeah. I don't like any of it. Hearing those records back up until the mid '90s or so, when I kind of came back and started making records after my little vacation in the ghetto. I learned to sing softer. You know, I listened to a lot of Chet Baker records and figured out that you didn't have to be on, you know, 10 all the time.
Yeah.
You know, and it gave you another place to go to sing softer and just try some other stuff. And I got to be a lot better guitar player too, I think, when it came right down to it.
Do you still smoke?
No, I quit finally. It was the hardest thing to quit. I stopped doing heroin and cocaine like 10 years before I managed to quit smoking, and it was like it was the hardest thing to put down of everything.
Yeah, I quit 18 years ago.
You were ahead of me. I think it's right 13 years ago for me. Took me a long time.
And I've been clean for 28 years.
Yeah, I've got you got that on me too. 24.
Well, I'll tell you what
September
you did.
13th.
September 13th.
Yeah, that's it. It was Friday the 13th. That was the day I woke up in jail and went, oh, I'm probably not going to be able to get anything here, am I? It's one of those things. So that was the moment of truth. Yeah.
I did smacks for 10 years.
I did it for longer than that, off and on for more like 20. But the real nonstop thing was about 7 or 8 years. I lived in Nashville where there was no decent heroin, and then as soon as I started making money and traveling to other places where there was, I was in trouble almost immediately. I moved to L.A. largely because it was just a lot more. Better dope, and it was more anonymous to get it. You could just drive down to Hoover and Alvarado. That's all you had to do. It was one of those deals in those
the old
days.
balloons.
Yeah, yep.
I feel bad for these kids today with all this Oxycontin and fentanyl and all that.
Fentanyl's Fentanyl's killing a lot of people. It used to be that the secret society that I've been in all these years, we used to see people go out and come back after they relapsed, and sometimes they didn't come back.
Right.
Now they're very few are coming back. If they go back out, really good chance that you end up dead. There's a hot shot waiting out there for you. So I tell people, man, it scares me. It scares me bad enough that when I hit a rough spot to not even think about it. I know what would happen to me.
The trouble is with a lot of young people, they're not slippery enough. They're not like real street junkies. So when they relapse, they don't do a little bit first to see if I'm going to be cool.
Right.
They just wallop and then they're dead.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Well, I was one of those big shot guys. People used to fight over my cottons. It was one of those things. So I know what would happen. I don't even want to think about it.
Yeah. Did you ever? I was worried because I was living in New York in '82.
Right.
But I never shared a needle.
I never did either, but I know for sure that it was only because it never came up.
Yeah.
And I thank God for that. And I came out of it with Hep C, but without HIV. And I was lucky. It's pretty easy to treat Hep C and get rid of it now.
I did the thing.
Yeah, I did too, and it worked for me.
Yeah.
It worked for me. So that more things that just. Knock on wood, So one of those deals. I don't know how I dodged that bullet, but we were the highest risk group when it came to that epidemic, and not need doubt about it. And I lost a lot of friends.
Yeah.
I lost a lot of friends.
Yeah. Should we play some music? What are we doing? We're going to play some Tom Petty.
Cool.
We're here with Steve Earle. You're listening to Jonesy's Jukebox. Do you think we bummed anyone out talking about dope and opium?
I hope not, but I hope we scared a couple of people. I hope we didn't bum the people that we didn't mean to out, and I hope we scared a couple of people that we needed to.
There's a guy I knew not only from afar, OD'd yesterday on that stuff.
It's out there, and that's what it does.
Yeah, and these companies, they don't really care.
No.
What's that big family? The big family.
They just got sued for the first time.
Yeah,
it's crazy. It's going to be interesting to see what happens, and it's a bummer because there's probably people out there genuinely in need of pain medication,
of course,
that are not going to get it. You know, as they're politically trying to adjust to this, because it was money that dictates the whole thing and money that drives it always. And you know, as far as making drugs illegal doesn't work, hasn't worked, failed miserably. You know, cocaine, as far as we know, grows on the western slope of the Andes, and it would stay right there if it wasn't worth a lot of money in the United States.
Yeah.
It's one of those deals.
That's non-addictive, isn't it, cocaine? Let's play some Tom Petty. You're listening to Jonesy's Jukebox on KLOS. That was Johnny Thunders. You Can't Put Your Arms Around a Memory. And before that was Tom Petty, The Waiting. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Not Johnny Thunders and the Heartbreakers. That's two things going on there.
Two totally different things. We're
here with Steve Earle. How are you?
I'm good. I'm really good.
Did you ever see? Let me get it for you.
That's all right.
Did you ever see Johnny Thunders?
I did. I saw him twice. I saw him solo. The last time I saw him at the New Marquee in London, and then I actually saw the New York Dolls at Liberty Hall in Houston, Texas. In
Texas. What was that like?
It was, Texas has pretty. A lot of music goes on there. A lot of music came there. Liberty Hall was a cool place. Springsteen played there very early on. I saw a lot of stuff. I saw a lot of stuff like what I do. Saw Jerry Jeff Walker, and I saw Townes Van Zandt, and but I also saw Little Feat and Springsteen. At Liberty Hall, I saw the Sex Pistols at Randy's Rodeo in San Antonio, Texas.
Really?
Yeah, it's really weird because, I basically. Because, I wanted an electric guitar when I was growing up, but my dad wouldn't let me have one because there was 5 kids, and so I only had an acoustic guitar, so I started gravitating towards music. I could make my guitar sound like that. And then I met guys like Townes and Guy, so I had been off into pretty much singer-songwriter stuff for several years, and a couple of things started making me want. Springsteen made me think about an electric guitar. The first Elvis Costello record, made me want an electric guitar because those are such great songs. Yeah. And I thought, this is a great song. But I'd been in Nashville already, had a publishing deal. The company sold. They didn't have a Nashville office for a long time, and I was getting $150 a week songwriter draw, and that went further in Mexico. So I moved to San Miguel Allende and commuted to Nashville every few months. Long commute, but it made sense in my life at the time. But you didn't wire money into Mexico in those days. So I would come to San Antonio, where I grew up, across the border, and, get my money and cash a check and see friends and stuff. And I was sitting around actually and gone up to Austin, and some friends of mine were saying, the Sex Pistols, are playing at Randy's Rodeo in San Antonio. And I went, Randy's Rodeo? It was 2 blocks from where I lived when I was going in high school. And my biology teacher had a local country band, George Chambers and the Country Gentlemen. They were the house band there. They played there on Friday and Saturday nights, most weekends. And I said, well, I'd heard of the Sex Pistols. I didn't know anything about the band, had never heard a Sex Pistols record. And I said, well, I know where that is. They're trying to figure out how to get there. So I got in the car with them. I was the guide, showed them where Randy's Rodeo was. I got a ticket. Turned out a friend of mine, Joe Puglisi, was in one of the 2 bands that opened the bill. Once I got there, I can't remember the name of that band now. But that was a lot of legends about that show. It was a pretty good show, actually.
Yeah, I was surprised. I was curious what you think.
It was.
You can be honest, Stevie.
No. It was one of those things that I knew about the Ramones, and I knew that it wasn't what I was doing because I was really concentrating mostly on songs at that point. But I thought it was really, really interesting, and I did like the idea of that maybe rock and roll was starting to take itself a little bit too seriously, and because I found myself by that time I was listening to early Beatles records rather than later ones, and the Rolling Stones records that I love are the ones when they were competing with the Beatles in a songwriting contest and they knew it.
Yeah.
Those are still my favorite Stones records. So, but it was that's the show that everybody said later, oh, you were at that show. That's the one where Sid hit somebody with his bass. It's not exactly what happened. It got pretty pushy and it got up front. There were some cowboys there. There were some guys that were there, just to not dig it. But most of the crowd was very, very into it, and it seemed like a pretty good show to me.
Well, there was one show where Sid clobbered someone. I don't know if it was at Randy's.
I think the guy got it in the head with the bass, but I don't think he took it off and swung it like a clubber. It was a precision bass. It would have killed the guy. There's not any doubt about that. But
well, there's footage of it.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, he's got it, and the guy does get it in the head. He gets it off. He's standing there hollering at him, but it wasn't quite as graphic as it's made out to be.
I have that bass, by the way.
You wow, that's incredible. This is my thing about bass is Jason and the Nashville Scorchers. The first record that they made, I
remember them guys.
They were good. They were cool, and they just we started to put out our own independent records at the same time when I gave up on getting a record deal in the early '80s. And the bass that was used on those records, it belonged. It was actually belonged to Jack Emerson, who I later had a record label with, and I own that bass now. It was on those first 2 or 3 Scorchers records, and it's on the cover. It's on the cover of that first record.
I still actually have the blood on Sid's bass.
Wow! So you got the proof.
Yeah.
You still have that white Les Paul Custom that you played in the Sex Pistols?
I don't have the original. No.
Yeah.
I tell people I do, but I don't.
Yeah.
That went everything.
Went the same place all my guitarists went.
Everything.
Me too. Yeah. Same
if
thing.
If you was a junkie, I couldn't.
I don't have one
that.
single guitar. Yeah. I own one guitar from before my bottom, and that was because a friend of mine went and got it out of a pawn shop and kept it and gave it back to me after I got clean. Yeah. That's the only one that I still have.
Yeah. So. I got Sid's bass later on in life from his mother.
I'll be damned. Wow.
Yep. I'll sell it to you.
I might buy it. Actually, I'll give you my telephone number. You know what I played the other day? I was in Houston, Texas, and I'd heard it was there from a friend of mine that's another guitar nerd like I am. We sing guitar porn back and forth to each other. And Lightning Hopkins Gibson J50. It's on the wall in the shop in Houston, Texas. The guy that owns the shop's had it for years, and he finally decided to get it out where people could see it and play it. And I sat for an hour and a half and played Lightning Hopkins Gibson J50 the other day, because I saw Lightning play that guitar. I got to Houston in time to see Lightning Hopkins and Mance Lipscomb both in the same room at the same time on more than one occasion. It was pretty good place to be.
You gonna do an oldie but goodie?
Yeah, this is like it's kind of cool. This song, it was me trying to make a rock record on purpose, but I still talk like this.
Got the moonshine thing.
I went over to Memphis. There's actually there's a line dance to this song. That happened when I was gone. Yeah, and it's become a permanent part of culture in Texas and New Mexico and Arizona and places like that. So somebody said, "Isn't that weird? Doesn't that make you feel weird that you're song?" I said, "No, that's a big deal. It's like I wrote Cotton Eye Joe, They
do a line dance to Anarchy in the UK too.
They do.
No, I'm kidding.
I'd actually like to see that. That's the other thing. I did hire a cook that worked for every tour that I did in the UK for a long time, that worked for Eat to the Beat. That his name was Tomo, and he was legendary. For one thing, he was blasting Never Mind the Bollocks when I walked into his kitchen the first time, and he was pretty. He kind of went out on he'd been out on a fired from an Oasis tour because he just at the third day in he decked Noel Gallagher in the food line. So I hired him every time I went after that. It was just one of those deals. For Tomo, wherever he is. My name's John Lee Pettimore. Same as my daddy and his daddy before. I never saw Granddad and I here. Only come a ten about twice a year. £100 each since the copper line. Everybody knew he made moonshine. Now the revenue man wanted granddaddy bad. Head up a hollow and everything I had. For my time and I've been told, never come back from Copperhead Road. Now daddy run the whiskey in a bib like Dodge. Bought an auction at the Mason's Lodge. Johnson and the sheriff painted on the side. Shot a coat of primer and I looked inside. Him and my uncle tore that engine down. I still remember that rumbling sound. And then the sheriff come around in the middle of the night. Heard mama crying and someone right. Heading out of Nashville with a weekly load. Smell of whiskey burning down Copperhead Road. Oh. 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 Volunteered for the army on my birthday. Draft white trash first round here and away. Done two to the duty in Vietnam. I come home with a brand new plan. I take seat from Colombia and Mexico. Plan up a holler down Copperhead Road. Now the DA got a chopper in the air. Wake up screaming like I'm back over there. Learn a thing or two from Charlie, don't you know? Better stay away from Copperhead Road. Copperhead Road. Copperhead Road. Copperhead Road.
Jonesy's Jukebox, KLOS. That was Steve Earle doing a live version of Copperhead Road. We're going to visit the Duke. When we come back, we'll see what happens. See you in a minute.